ToRaH Guardian, speaking the absolute truth. ToRaH Nation.
Hallelujah. Shalom, Yashar'el and Yahudah. I want to thank the Most High, grafted in Gentiles, in the body of Mashiach, for Yahuwah taking the things of this world away from me and off of my shoulders. I don't have desires for idols. I don't have desire for the things of this world. He's made my desires pure. He's established me in the witness of the Ruach HaKodesh, and he's made my desires pure. All I want to do is declare the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. I want to reach Yahuwah's people for the witness of Yahusha Mashiach and all that comes with it. The Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart Ruach, the Ruach of wisdom and understanding, the Ruach of counsel and of might, the Ruach of knowledge and the fear of Yahuwah, the Ruach of truth, the Ruach of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of him. Listen, that's all I want, Yahuwah, that I may have what I need to give the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I just want to please you, Yahusha. I want to please you, Yahuwah. I want to be established in the kingdom. I want to see the kingdom. The kingdom come, Yahweh. HezekiYAH. Song is entitled Pure. I don't own the right to this music. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I come to you today asking that you would take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign, that by the Ruach HaKodesh you would give me a word to give to your people, to strengthen, to set them apart. Yahuwah, this word is not for everybody. It's for those that you have chosen, those who have an ear to hear. I pray that this word would go out and reach them, quicken them, make them alive, Yahuwah. Yahuwah, I just want to be pure before you. I just want to continue to hear your Ruach HaKodesh, to listen and not disobey. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I pray that I would cause no one to be turned out of the way, no one to come of lame, no one to stumble. Yahuwah, as a vessel, I pour myself out unto you as a vessel, Yahuwah, because you've made me. You've made my desires pure. Yahuwah, I pray in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach that you would continue by your Ruach to take the reins of my lips, that you would continue by your Ruach HaKodesh to demonstrate yourself strong with signs following in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, Yahuwah, my strength and my redeemer. Listen. I just want to do what Yahuwah wants me to do all the time. I want to hear the Ruach HaKodesh continually in me all the time, right? I know all I have to do is remain, continue, and dwell in Yahusha HaMashiach and be established in the witness. Renew my mind with the word, the Basor of truth, and I will continue in this witness. He's made my desires pure. Listen, HezekiYAH. He's made my desires pure. I don't want the things of this world. You can have your football. You can have your playoffs. You can have your basketball. You can have it all. You can have your sports. You can have your all that fleshly Babylonian recreation. You can have it. I just want him to make my desires pure. Listen, this is what we do. This is the goal. This is the mission of the Basora of truth, to bring the witness to those who have an ear to hear, right? To quicken and make alive those that Yahuwah and Yahusha has chosen. To make Yahuwah's desires, make my desires, Yahuwah, pure. Yahuwah, let the words that I speak be pure. Let the things that I say be pure. Only the righteous, those who walk in the RUACH HaKodesh, those that are established in the witness, shall see Yahuwah and his kingdom established in the arets. Yeah, the mystery of Yeshua. He's made my desires pure. Yeah, we going in. As you know, we've completed Acts, the 24th chapter, right? No, actually, the 24th chapter is the chapter we're in, right? And we completed the 23rd chapter yesterday, right? And it was finished with the knowledge of the chief captain having received information concerning Shaul, right? And how Shaul's life was in jeopardy. Shaul's sister's son overheard what the Bruce had planned, having made a vow, a cursed vow, if you will, 40 of them, with the approval of Ananias, the high priest, to take Paul or make request to have Paul brought to him, right? In order that these wicked Hebrews, that has made a vow, right, to kill Paul, may be able to access him, right? But again, he was foiled. And Yahusha had already told Paul, he said, listen, be of good cheer, right? Because the same way you've testified of me in Jerusalem, you have to testify of me, right, in Rome. So the idea that this plan that they had would ever come to fruition was nullified when Yahuwah told Paul that he was going to Rome, right? But Yahuwah still used situations and circumstances to reveal information to continue to cause things to move in a certain direction. Hold on. Kadar, cut it out. I'm going down. That's what that dog does that every time I start, right? Hallelujah, Yahweh. Listen. So Shaul, right? We understand, right? He understands, right? That Yahusha's word is going to be established. It's a ToRaH. Yahusha told him what was going to happen, right? That he was going to Rome, right? And so the idea that these men could somehow circumvent Yahusha's plan, it wasn't going to happen, right? So we have Paul's nephew going to the chief and foiling their plan, right? And they taking Paul out at night, 3 a.m. I think it was, over to Caesarea so that he could be heard by Felix, right? And he sent a letter with Felix in reference to the situation, which was his perspective, which resolved him of any issues that were attached to Paul. You know, because Paul had already declared that it was not lawful for them to take him and bind him, right? Without, because he's a Roman citizen, without having it being determined that there was a crime was committed, right? So, you know, Felix, you know, made haste. I mean, not Felix, but the chief made haste, got together a bunch of soldiers, a mini army, if you will, to escort Paul to Felix, right? Where Paul could be heard, right? Because the chief understood that this was more than he could handle. Yeah, it was more than he could handle. You know, he needed Felix, right, to intervene. It was more than he was able to deal with, right? And you know, we know Felix. Let's look at that's 23 actions what we need. All right, let's go where let's look into I'm looking for, let's look and see the Greek for Felix, right? So his name is pronounced
Strong's G 5344.
It's kind of loud.
Felix.
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 So Felix, right? His name means happy. Okay. He was a Roman procurator of Judea, appointed by the Emperor Claudius. So he was over Judea, right? The province, the area of Judea, right? He ruled the province in a mean and cruel and profligate manner. So he was a tyrant, right? His period of office was full of trouble and sedition, right? There was always an uproar. Hence the reason why the chief probably felt the need to come up with a bunch of guards and a bunch of soldiers because, you know, he had heard that there was 40 men that had a vow to plan on killing Paul. Yeah, he didn't want that problem, right? So he turned him over to Felix, right? He was brought before Felix at Caesarea, right? He was remanded to prison, right? So we get an understanding of him going and him being heard in front of Felix the tyrant. He was not a pleasant guy, right? Which is ironic, right? Because his name means happy. He probably was more happy in his tyranny, right? But the idea is that his name is really a contradiction to what he did, right? Or who he was. So we are in the 24th chapter, right? And we're going to go over what we see. Now, understand, right? Paul never had to go through this. This was never the plan of Yahuwah. It was never the plan of Yahusha. But Yahuwah has adapted this plan for Paul. He adapted this plan for Paul. Because Paul, all he needed to do was listen to the RUACH HaKodesh when the disciples told him, listen, don't go to Jerusalem. You know, all he had to do was acknowledge that, you know, and you got to realize the whole time, right? After which he had received that word, he had that in his mind. The Ruach said to him, don't go to Jerusalem. That was in him by the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? It was there. It echoed. You know. It did. He knew. Right? But he was determined. And we know that, you know, of course, the chain of events that occurred. And we also know that it was Yahusha that came and stood, right, with Paul, where he was being held, right, detained, that told him, listen, be good cheer. I know you're down. I know you recognize that you should have listened to the Ruach HaKodesh. I know you understand that, you know, you're in this situation because you didn't obey. But the way you testified before the Jews here, you're going to need to do the same thing in Jerusalem. I mean, in Rome, right? It wasn't for the need for Paul to deliver the word there because you had the apostles. You had the Nazarenes. They call them the Nazarenes or the Mashiachs, right? You had them there. And they were bringing people by the thousands into the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach and establishing them in the Ruach HaKodesh. But you know, Paul wanted to go. Well, he got his message across, right? But it cost him, right? So now he's been taken by the chief priest, the soldiers, the centurions that he's dispatched, and Paul is on horse, headed to Felix, right? So Paul is there now, right? And he's awaiting. So let's find out what goes on. So Acts 24:1, and after 5 days, Ananias, right? The high priest, right? Descended with the elders and certain orators and a certain orator named ToRaH. Okay, now ToRaH. Let's see what his name means, right? ToRaH means
Strong's
how to
G
say it,
5061. Tertulos.
Tetra,
Tertulos.
right? Now Tetras, right? His name means triple hardened. Triple hardened. Hardened times 3, right? And he was a Roman orator or probably an interpreter, right? So he was going to make what the Hebrews were going to say. He was going to say it in the Greek language, because that's what I'm assuming his presence was for. You know, I mean, he was an orator, right? I mean, somebody that speaks for somebody, right? Which would more or less mean he was an interpreter, right? So, who informed the governor against Paul? So what he did was he went before the governor, right? And spoke to the governor, right? What the high priest Caiaphas, or high priest Ananias, right, had said concerning Shaul, right? Right? And when he was called forth, this ToRaH, right, began to accuse Shaul, right, saying, seeing that by thee we enjoy great kindness. Now he's playing up to, right, Felix, because, you know, Felix don't play. You know, Felix names me happy, but he ain't happy. He was a man of reputation. He was a man of hostility, you know. So, you know, you have to feed this man's ego, right? And what you present so that you can hopefully quell, you know, any targeted anger against yourself, right? So, because Felix now has to hear this issue, this problem that has arisen in his province, right, by you Yahudim who decide that you want to kill Paul, right? So, seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness. Right. And that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy province. Listen, they pouring it on because they're trying to get a favorable decision and at the same time not make him mad, right? Because they didn't want to make him mad, right? Because they understood how vicious or how treacherous, right, Felix could be, right? So they said the very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy province, Rome. They were under the captivity, the dominion, right, of Rome, right? He said, we accept always and in all places most notable Felix, right, notable Felix, right, who was a mean and cruel. He was mean and cruel with his rulership. He was mean and cruel with his rulership, right? They thanking him. Most notable Felix with all thankfulness. They spreading it. They laying it out there. Right? Now, notwithstanding, that I be not further tedious unto thee. Because I don't want you. I don't want you to be treacherous to me. Right? I don't want you to consider what I'm doing wasting your time and become angry. Right? Unto thee, I pray thee that thou wouldest hear us of thy clemency a few words. So we ain't gonna take us long. We're just praying that you hear a few words from us concerning this Shaul. Right? He says, for we have found this man, Shaul, a pestilent. Okay, so we know what pestilence are, but let's look at that word in the Greek.
Strong's G 3061. Loimas.
Loimas. It means pestilence. It's to plague, to pest. Right? From the word also pestor. Like he's a pestor. The pester. He's a pestor. I think that's the word. Well, anyway, he's a pest. Right? So, he calls Paul a pest, a mover of sedition, right? Now, he's saying Paul is operating in sedition, right? So, what is sedition in the Greek?
Strong's G 4714. Stasis.
Stasis, right? A sedition is one who caused an insurrection, right? Cause strife and insurrection, right? So he's saying Paul is calling strife and insurrection in your province. Right now, this is the spokesman for Ananias, who had agreed to bring Paul, right, and question, right, in the hopes that 40 Yahudim, right, may literally go forth and kill him. But Paul is the one who's creating an insurrection, right? See how wicked and twisted it is. Now, Paul's listening to this and he's going through this, and he still is understanding that, I'm in this place and I should not have been here. Yahusha comforted him. Yahusha told him, listen, be a good cheer, Paul. You still got to go to Rome. But Paul, he's got to listen to this knowing that he didn't listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Because, that's going to always be in his mind. That I'm here because, man, I just didn't obey the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? So, he says, he calls him a sedition amongst all the Jews. Right? Throughout the world. This man, Paul, has created a sedition throughout the world, right? And all the ringleaders of the sect of the Nazarene, Yahudim, who have received the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, the Mashiachs, followers of Mashiach, right? He says that throughout the world, right? Now, Paul has preached this Besorah well into Asia and well into the northwest, right? The northwest, right? And to the east, preaching the Besorah, right? He said that he's created this uproar. Now, understand to a degree, he has caused, the witness of Yahusha has caused unrest among those who have not received the witness. And the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach will always cause unrest to those who have not received the witness, right? Because it goes against what they perceive as their way of life, right? An order that they have already in place, an established idolatry, an established worship, a standard of conduct that they already have established, and they're comfortable in their sin. They're comfortable in their mess. And they don't want it shaken up. These Jews do not want to lose their positions. Under Herod, under Rome, they do not want that. And even those that are scattered to other lands and territories that have established synagogues in these countries, in these territories, right? They don't want it disrupted because they understand that they are comfortable. That witness of Yahusha HaMashiach disrupts everything, right? This witness of Yahusha HaMashiach not only changes Hebrews, but it makes alive Gentiles as well. It quickens those of the other nations whom Yahuwah has chosen. This is a problem. This is a problem for them. Just like the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, in this time, in dispensation, right, and the select righteous that are selected from the plant of righteousness, which have the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach that is going to carry the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach into the four corners of the earth once they receive the quickening of the Ruach HaKodesh and understand that there is work to be done, because the end ain't going to come until that occurs. It ain't in Christianity. Listen, it's amazing, who said say it? Listen, I viewed some of your assemblies, right? And how these assemblies mirror what occurs in the Christian church, right? Mirrors it, right? The only thing that's different, right, is the identity of you being Hebrew. And you, and this is not every assembly, I'm not saying everybody, but the ones that I've witnessed and I observed, because me, I listen and I observe. And I request the Ruach HaKodesh to reveal to me what is righteous. Right? Yahuwah said, listen, the assemblies have a form of godliness. They have an established pattern. Right? But they don't have the Ruach HaKodesh. Because they don't even know what the Ruach HaKodesh looks like. Yes, it's in Acts. Right? Yes, Yahusha HaMashiach demonstrated, but we in this time, in this dispensation, don't know what it looks like unless we've received the witness and the quickening, because it's not like what we see in the church. Some of us have come out of the church. Some of the leaders have come out of the church and have started assemblies, and their assemblies look exactly like what happens in the church. Minus the Ruach HaKodesh. And because you are awakened now and understanding you're the people, you think, okay, we okay. We good now. We good, right? We okay. We good, right? Yeah, we quickened. We've been, not even quickened. We understand the Torah and the Besorah, and as a people, how we need to keep the Torah and have faith in Hamashiach. Yeah, but the faith of the Mashiach and the baptism without the Ruach HaKodesh is still incomplete. Right? You can't do the things that you did comfortably in the church, the Christian church, and expect to be able to do those things comfortably in the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, because those things represent Babylon. Those things represent paganism. And they made allowances for you to do those things. And you've become comfortable with them. And even in the awakening, you bring them over. That's not the Ruach HaKodesh. Man of Yah, that's not the Ruach HaKodesh. Woman of Yahuwah, that's not the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? It's not the Ruach HaKodesh. It's not the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of Yahuwah and Yahusha. Listen, you have to understand that that's not this. Right? And these assemblies, these places, these teaching places, have to understand they need to be quickened in the Ruach HaKodesh. You still have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Some of y'all haven't even received the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. The complete witness. With the Ruach HaKodesh, but some of y'all, haven't received the complete. Some of y'all have received, the water. You've accepted Yahusha's blood, but have you really received the Ruach HaKodesh, the full witness? Because the three are one. In agreement, you have to have them all three, because they're one. It doesn't mean just because you have one of them, you have all three of them. No, you have to have all three of them in order to be complete. I need to say that again. Just because you have one of them doesn't mean you have all of them. All of them, right? But if you have all three of them, you have one, because they're complete. You can't have just the water and the blood and have it complete, because they're not one. You have to have the water, the Ruach HaKodesh, and the blood, because that's one. All right, so let's go on, right? So, they given Felix their interpretation of what Paul is doing, right? Right? He says that he's creating a sedition, right? An uprising, right? In the province of Felix, right? He's presented this picture of kindness and niceness that's supposed to be indicative of the chief priest and the elders who have come to share this reasoning as to why this Paul is who he is. But we reverence and respect you, Felix, because you are a notable man who has done great things for us in this nation, right? When they're the object of the sedition. Listen, he says among all the Jews throughout all the world, he's doing this, right? Right? And a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarene, right? Now, understand, he says sect. right? That means
Strong's G 139. Hyresis.
hyresis, right? The hyresis. It's a body of men following their own tenet. That's what it means. A body of men or women following their own tenet, making a choice to do what they want to do, right? Now, again, they're using words that they want to use to alarm Felix into doing something hostile, right? Because they understand who Felix is. And, Felix ain't tolerating nothing, right? Right? So they mentioned Paul as being a sect, but the Pharisees and Sadducees are a sect. Now they're a sect, right? But this Nazarene sect, that's causing a problem throughout the whole world. Right? It is. It's causing a problem. Right? People are getting healed. It's a problem. Demons are being casted out. It's a problem. The captives are being set free. It's a problem. They're causing a problem. Right? People are turning from their idols. Demons are being casted out. It's a problem. It's a problem. Right? Now, you see how this sedition that the chief priests and the elders was trying to create, or this idea that they were trying to create of Paul, was being received by Felix, right? He says, so listen, who also haven't gone out to profane the temple. Profane the temple. That may even be a concern of Felix. Felix care about that. Right? That's what's gone out to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged him according to our ToRaH. Yeah, because we was going to kill him. We drug him out, closed the door behind him so the other ones couldn't get out. Right? And we beat him. We was going to judge him according to our ToRaH. And Paul had just completed a Nazarite vow, right? Sacrificed and established himself in obedience to the ToRaH, right? With these 4 men. But yet, these Pharisees, right? These Sadducees, right? Or these Sadducees, the chief priest and the elders, right? Because he didn't even say he took the Pharisees with him. Because the Pharisees was like, cut him loose. It was the Pharisees, right? It wasn't the Pharisees. Pharisees didn't even know about the plot. They didn't know about the plot. It was the Sadducees and the chief priest, or the chief priest, right? So, he says, who also had gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged him according to our ToRaH. He would profaning the temple, right? But the certain chief Lysian came upon us with great violence. That's why he sent the letter first to Felix. Because his letter is going to be appreciated more because he is the man that is there to establish order. Right. His order, his structured letter leaned heavily on him being the person that rescued Paul from this crowd of Jews that were about to kill him. And they determined that he was a Jew, and therefore it was necessary that, because these Jews was going to try to kill him, to give him to Festus, because he was concerned about Paul. Yeah, right. But the chief priest said, listen, it was with great violence that they took away him out of our hands. They had to stop them from beating Paul. Then they had to pick Paul up, carry him to the stairs. They was going to render judgment according to their ToRaH. I don't know which ToRaH they got, right? Because it ain't the ToRaH of Yahuwah. So here we go. Commanding his accusers to come unto thee, by examining of whom thyself mayest take knowledge of all these things whereof we accuse him. Right? So, we come in here because we want you to know why we accuse him. Right? And I want you to consider all these things. I want you to examine all these things. Everything that we're sharing to you, I want you to look into it, right? Few words, right? And the Jews also assented, saying that these things were so. So the Jews, yeah, this is exactly what he said. Exactly what he said. Right? 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 So, then Paul, after the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answer, right? Paul said, I could play that game too. He said, for much as I know that thou hast been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself, right? Right? Because that thou mayest understand that there are yet but 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem to worship. Just 12 days ago. I came up to worship, right? He says, and they neither found me in the temple disputing with any man, neither rising up the people, neither in the synagogue nor in the city. They didn't find me in Jerusalem causing people to insurrect, causing a sedition, right? That's not what I did. That's not where I was. And I'm glad to be able to talk. I'm glad to be able to speak this to you, right? Neither can they prove the things whereof they now accuse me of, right? They can't prove it. But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, right? Right? After the way, right? And that's established that Yahusha is the way. So after the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, right? Right? The way which they call heresy, they call the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach heresy. Listen, even amongst the nation today, they call Yahusha HaMashiach's witness heresy. They deny the power of Yahusha HaMashiach. They deny the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, right? They're going to be purged. The rebels, those that rebel against the witness in the wilderness. They ain't leaving this land without being purged. You ain't going into the kingdom of Yahuwah, because only the righteous that have received the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach are going to be able to enter in. Okay. He says, but this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worshipped I. I just worshipped after the way. The allure of my fathers, right? Believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets. They say I don't keep ToRaH, but I believe all of the ToRaH. I obey the Torah even in the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. I keep the Torah in Yahusha HaMashiach. I believe the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. Right? Let me read that again. But this I confess unto thee, that after the way, Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the light, the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, which they call heresy, which even amongst the nation to this day, they call Paul, they call Yahusha HaMashiach, they call the witness, they call the renewed covenant heresy. And let me make something clear, right? There is no way in the world you're going to ever be able to properly divide the original covenant without Yahuwah's RUACH HaKodesh. You can't approach the Torah, the Besorah, the truth without the RUACH HaKodesh and expect to rightly divide it. That's why Christianity is so messed up, because they don't have the RUACH HaKodesh. They have what they believe is the Holy Spirit, but that's a familiar RUACH. That is not the RUACH of Yahuwah, because the RUACH of Yahuwah would drive them to obey the Torah, like Yahusha HaMashiach said. They said they believe in Jesus, right, whose name is not Jesus, because his name would have been Iesu or Iesus, which is not his name. His name was Yahusha, right? And it wasn't until the 1400s to the 1700s that the letter J, the little tail that they put on the end of it, and established it as a sound, as a consonant, right? That it was ascribed to the name of Yahusha. Ascribed to you Jesus, Iesu, right? They don't even got that right. Right? Listen. There is no RUACH HaKodesh in that. Right? Why can't they rightly divide it? Because they don't have the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. You have to have the witness of the RUACH HaKodesh in order to rightly divide any of it. Right? Listen, he gave us a Torah that we would obey it. Right? Right? All we had to do was obey it, and we didn't even do that. So can you imagine the prophets? Daniel, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Elisha, right? All the prophets. Malachi, Amos. How can you rightly divide it without the RUACH HaKodesh? Yahusha told the disciples, listen, you got to wait for the RUACH HaKodesh in order to understand this thing, because in it, it's going to lead you and to guide you into all truth. It's going to reveal the truth. It's the RUACH HaKodesh of truth. You can't discern this. You can't handle the truth. The truth. All I want is the truth. You can't handle the truth. You need the RUACH HaKodesh. And listen, that's why there's all kinds of doctrines that have spawned them, created themselves in this evil, twisted idea. Constantine, the first Christian emperor, who established sun worship on Sunday and incorporated Christianity and all the rest of the other religions that wanted to worship. It was Sunday, the day. Come on, man, that's documented history. You'll find that out in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Listen, you ain't going to understand this Besorah. You ain't going to understand the Torah without the RUACH HaKodesh. I know that's going to make some of y'all like hostile, like mad, but it's okay. You be just like the Pharisees and Sadducees and get angry at me because I'm preaching the way. You can get mad at me because I'm preaching the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, that Yahuwah has already established and witnessed to in the Shamaim, him, the ToRaH, the Besorah, the word of Yahuwah, Yahusha, and the Ruach HaKodesh have already witnessed to the Shamaim witness. The Shamaim witness is already witnessed and witnessed to the witness on the earth, the Ruach HaKodesh, the water, and the blood. Yahuwah, Yahusha has already been established. Okay, so Paul said, I ain't violate ToRaH. Actually, I'm walking in fulfillment of the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, which is throughout ToRaH. So the ruckus, the uproar, the uprising, the insurrection that they're speaking of has nothing to do with the ToRaH. I keep the ToRaH, right? Right? He says, and have hope towards the Lua, which they themselves also allow, that there should be a resurrection from of the dead, both of the just and the unjust, right? So now Paul's talking about, listen, it was the Pharisees that agreed with me that what I was doing was right? And that they believe also in the resurrection of the dead. They also believe in the witness of Yahuwah and Yahusha. They believe in RUACHs and angels. I don't understand what they're saying, because, see, this is, Paul was a man of wisdom, and in the Ruach HaKodesh, he was dangerous, wisdom-wise. And I think sometimes that was kind of like Paul was intellectual. Paul was super intelligent, right? He was. But with the Ruach HaKodesh, whoo, man, the Ruach HaKodesh, the witness. Paul says, and have hope towards Elua, which they themselves also allow, right? They allow it, right? The Pharisees, right? And there shall be a resurrection of the dead. They believe it. The Pharisees, Sadducees don't, right? Both of the just and the unjust. Resurrection. We believe, as Hebrews, the Besorah and the ToRaH. This speaks of the resurrection of the dead, right? And herein do I exercise myself to have always a conscience void of offense towards Elua and towards men. I don't have a problem with men, because I don't have a problem with you and Yahusha, because I received the witness, and that's what I preach and teach, right? Yahusha don't have a problem with Paul, right? Paul did not obey the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And because he didn't, Yahuwah, because of the choice that he made, allowed him to go through what he went through. He didn't have to. The consequences of his actions, Yahuwah still gonna get his will done, but he didn't have to. He didn't have to. Paul didn't have to be before Felix. Listen, you better have the Ruach HaKodesh, right? You better have the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, right? You better have the Ruach. You better have the witness, because listen, if you don't, right, you're gonna be destroyed. You're gonna self-destruct. And listen, when you have the Ruach HaKodesh, you better listen to him. You better obey him. You better let him lead and guide you into the truth that he has established. He's established in. He is the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Listen, you ain't going to rightly divide this book without the witness, without having received the witness. It's not going to happen. You ain't going to be able to understand Daniel. You ain't going to be able to understand the prophets. You ain't going to be able to grasp it the way the Ruach. You ain't going to be able to move line upon line the way you should. Because the Ruach HaKodesh has to bring that into you. It's got to quicken that in you. You got to have the Ruach HaKodesh. Paul says, And now, after many years, I came to bring alms to my nations and offerings. The plus is I come to bring alms and offerings to my nation. Came to bring alms and offerings, right? Whereupon certain Yahudim from Asia found me purified in the temple, neither with multitudes nor with tumult. I came here to give alms to the nation. I came here to pray in the temple with my brethren, right? Having completed a vow, right? To witness and testify to the fact that I still keep ToRaH. I'm in here doing what Yahuwah, I'm in here doing. I'm in this place not because Yahuwah want me to, but I'm doing what I should do. That's a man of you. Don't be in a place doing what you're doing, right? Even when the Ruach HaKodesh has told you to do something different, because you're gonna find yourself doing something, right? And though it may be righteous indeed, right, it may not be what Yahuwah was calling you to do, right? And Paul said they came in, told, and with a tumult, they did. I was in the temple praying, serving you, and they came and grabbed me and took me out. He says, whereupon certain Jews from Asia, Jews that followed them down, that was saying, yeah, Paul, he's teaching the Hebrews that they don't need to be circumcised, and he's bringing and profaning the temple, taking in them Greeks, letting them in the temple. Right. He says, who ought to have been here before thee and objected if they had aught against me. They should have been there. They should have objected to the fact that Paul, no, he's fine. We already sent the letter. But they didn't send no letter. The apostles sent the letter. But what Paul is saying is that just because of the fact that I believe in the resurrection of the dead, they know what I believe. They should have been there to step up for me, right? But they didn't. He said, who ought to have been here before thee. Right? They should have been. The Pharisees. They should have been there before Felix. But they weren't. Because they didn't know probably. He said, listen, who ought to have been here before thee and objected if they had aught against me. Right? So listen. You notice the chief priest took some elders and this one dude. He didn't bring the Pharisees or the Sadducees with him. He bring nobody with him. He says, who ought to have been here before thee and objected if they had aught against me, right? Or else let these same say if they have found any evil doing in me while I stood before the council. Let them tell you. Did they? Right? Except it be for this one voice that I cried, standing amongst them, touching the resurrection of the dead, I am called into question by you this day. They don't have grounds, right? Right? Now this is Felix. Felix, listen. And when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of the way, right? Because he didn't even know the way. Because Paul told him the way, right? He deferred them and said, when Lyistus, the chief captain, shall come down, I will know the utmost of your matter. I'm going to wait till he comes. I'm going to wait till the chief captain comes. Because I want to hear what he has to say, right? And he commanded the centurion to keep Paul and to let him have liberty. Keep Paul, but let him have liberty. You know, keep him locked up and confined. Let him move about. He ain't got no problems. Not in my province. let him move freely around. See, that's Yahusha. That's ADONI Yahusha. Showing Paul mercy, even though Paul didn't obey. It didn't obey the RUACH. He still gets liberty, right? He can't go free. He ain't out, but he got to stay in one place, right? And that he should forbid none of his acquaintance to minister and come unto him. Yahuwah says, you won't be able to have your disciples come unto you because they're going to need to know of your state. Because right now they don't know. They probably have heard of the fact that, you know, you've been beat by the Jews, you drug out of the temple, you know, the chief captains, you know, Shaul's nephew probably told him some things, you know, I mean, all of these things, right? But this is how Yahusha is, because Yahusha is going to comfort his disciples, right? Who knew that he shouldn't have went, but they said, you will, let your will be done. So they know that what Paul is going through now is Yahuwah's will. But they still need comfort, right? Right? So he says, and that he should forbid none of his acquaintances or ministers to come unto him, right? And after certain days, I don't know how long that is. Well, after certain days, when Felix came with his wife, Drusilla, which is a Jewish. So Felix was married to a Hebrew. A Jewess, right? A Jewish belonging to the Jewish nation. Jewish as respect to birth. So she's a Hebrew. He was married to a Hebrew, right? Felix was. He was married to a Hebrew, right? So he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the faith in the Mashiach. Right? So he sends for Paul because he want to know about this faith, this witness. Excuse me. He wants to hear of the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. Hold on, I might need some water. Give me a second. Again, I apologize. So here we have Felix coming down with his wife, a Jewess, a Hebrew sister, right? And he wants Paul to expound on him, or expound to him, right? Concerning the way, right? The faith in Yahushua Mashiach, right? Now, you know, it's an interesting thing because he came with his wife and his wife was Hebrew. So not only he heard, but she heard the witness of Yahushua Mashiach, right? And as he reasoned, of righteousness and temperance and judgment to come, Felix trembled. And answered, go thy way for this time. And when I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. Listen, the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? It convicts of sin. It reveals righteousness. And it reveals judgment. The witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. When you receive or you hear of the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, it's going to convict of sin. It's going to reveal righteousness. And if you ain't righteous, it's going to reveal unrighteousness. And here's Felix, He's got a reputation, right? Right? Felix' reputation is he is the procurator, procurator of Judea, appointed by the Emperor Claudius. He ruled the province in a mean and cruel and proliferated manner, right? His period was full of trouble and sedition. Paul was brought before Felix at Caesarea. He was remanded in prison and kept there for 2 years in hope of extorting money from him. I don't know about that part. He was there. So, Paul's in Caesarea, right? Felix came down to him and his Hebrew wife. Paul preached to him and his wife the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. And it brought fear to Felix. Felix says, I've heard enough right now. Yeah, I've heard enough. I'm going to be back. But right now, I've heard enough, right? He says, Felix trembled and answered, go thy way for this time. And when I have a convenient season, I will call for thee, right? He hoped also that money should have been given him of Paul. Paul was going to pay him off. That he might loose him. Right? Wherefore he sent for him the oftener and communed with him. Right? Wherefore he sent for him the oftener. Does that mean he sent for him often? Right, maybe? Oh, yeah. He sent for Paul frequently. Refers to a time. Frequency, often, reoccurring. So he sent for Paul, right? He thought Paul was going to pay him off. I don't know why he thought that. Right? For he hoped also that money should be given him of Paul, that he might loose him. Wherefore he sent for him oftener and communed with him. So listen. So he sent for Paul often. And while Paul was with him, Paul shared the witness. Said Paul communed with him. Communed. What's that word commune in the Hebrew? In the Greek.
Strong's G 3656. Hamileo.
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 So, he had Paul in his company. He associated with Paul. Paul stayed with him, could stay with him, conversation with him, talk with him. Paul was giving the witness to Felix, right? Preaching the witness to Felix. Affecting Rome, but not in Rome, right? Locked up, but not locked up, right? Still has liberty, right? But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room. Right, now Festus going to do some talking to him now, right? And Felix, willing to show the Yahudim a pleasure, left Paul in bonds. So Paul was locked up. Right? Felix, willing to show the Jews pleasure, right, left Paul bound. Right? Bind and fastened. Fastened in chains to throw in the chains. Right? So that's what Yahusha said. Yahuwah said. That's what Agabus said. Right? So Paul had liberty for a while. Right? Right? But there came a time when, after 2 years, they put Paul back in chains. Gentiles put Paul in chains. This is what it looks like. The RUACH HaKodesh. And you know, the interesting thing about Yahuwah and the RUACH HaKodesh, right? You have the RUACH HaKodesh, and everything Yahuwah does by the RUACH HaKodesh is doing a perfect period of time. Right? Now, to you, it may not be perfect. You know, because Paul was told by Yahusha he had to go to Rome, but he'd been in Caesarea for 2 years, back and forth with Felix. And now all of a sudden Felix is going to throw him in chains because he pleased the Jews. Right? 2 years. Now, had Paul obeyed the RUACH HaKodesh, right, he would have been a free man preaching the Besorah of truth for those 2 years. Right? He would have been doing what Yahusha told him to do for those 2 years. Now Yahuwah's like, okay, I love you, Paul. Be of good cheer. You're going to testify before me in Rome. He ain't at Rome yet. For 2 years, he's been in Caesarea. Going back and forth with Felix, who's learning the way. But it ain't made a difference to him because, you know, he's still trying to make the Jews happy. He thought Paul was going to pay him off. The word ain't changed, Felix. Locked up 2 years. But now we have Festus. Right? Now we have Festus. Right? Let's see what Festus has to say. Acts the 25th chapter. We're going to keep pushing. Right? Now when Festus was coming to the province, after 3 days he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem. So Festus heads to Jerusalem. Right? And the high priest And the chief of the Jews informed him against Paul and besought him, right? Now, right? Festus. Festus' name is
Strong's G 5347. Festus.
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 Festus. So, Festus, his name means festival. Felix' name means happy. But Felix was a mean-spirited person, so. Now, Festus was Felix's successor, right, in the province of Judea, right? And so, when Festus was come to the province after 3 days, he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem. He went to check some things out, right? And the high priest and the chief of the Jews informed him against Paul. Paul been up there for 2 years. And Felix haven't done anything, right? He can talk bad now because Felix is out, Festus is in. And informed him against Paul and besought him, and desired favor against him that he would send for him to Jerusalem, laying wait in the way to kill him. So, you know, Festus new to the game, right? Right? Jews think they're gonna run it. They're gonna be able to get in quick, right? Get Paul over here to Jerusalem on the way, and we'll have somebody take him out. Right? That's what they wanted Festus to do, right? 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 Because it says, and desired favor against him that he would send him to Jerusalem. Right? They were lying wait in the way to kill him. Right? But Festus answered that Paul should be kept in Caesarea, and that he himself would depart shortly thither. Paul ain't coming down to Jerusalem. He's going to stay right there in Caesarea. Right? Stay right there in Caesarea until I get there. Right? And this says, let them therefore, said he, which among you are able, go down with me, accuse this man, if there be any wickedness in him. So I'm going there, Caesarea. You can come with me, and let me hear what you got to say. Let me hear your accusations. Let me hear what you got to say about Shaul. Right? Right? And when he had tarried among them more than 10 days, he went down into Caesarea, and the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, commanded Paul to be brought to him. So, we have Paul, we have the Jews, and we have Festus, Felix's successor. Hearing it all over again. 2 years later. Excuse me. It pays to listen to the RUACH HaKodesh. Listen. It pays to listen to the RUACH HaKodesh. That's why you got to have the RUACH HaKodesh, because you're going to be bumbling and fumbling and doing things that going to put you in places and positions that you don't need to be in, all because you have not received the witness. And sometimes it's the witness in its entirety. The RUACH HaKodesh. You've received the baptism. You may have received the blood. But you haven't received the RUACH HaKodesh, the entire witness. Okay, so, right. And when he was come, the Jews which came down from Jerusalem stood around about and laid many of the grievous complaints against Shaul, Paul, which they could not prove. Can't prove nothing. He said he did all this stuff, you can't prove it, right? And while he answered for himself, neither against Cut it out. Go to bed. Get away from here. Now. Right? Right. He says, and while he answered for himself, Paul, neither against the law of the Jews, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar, have I offended anything at all. So, Paul didn't do anything, right? It says in that 7th verse, they laid many of grievous complaints against Shaul, Paul, which they could not prove. And while he answered for himself, neither against the law of the Yehudim, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar, have I offended at anything, right? But Festus willing to do the Jews a pleasure, answered Paul and said, wilt thou go up to Jerusalem and there be judged of these things before me? You want to go up to Jerusalem and get killed? That'll eliminate this problem and make the Jews happy, and then I won't have to deal with it. He worse than Festus. He worse than Felix. Because, Paul was trying to get through this without using the Roman card. Because that one time, did he say to Felix, I'm a Roman citizen? Right? No, not one time did any of that come up. Right? Then Paul said, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. I'm a citizen. You should be judging me. Procurator of Judea, appointed by Caesar. To the Jews, I have done no wrong. As thou very well knowest, you know I ain't did anything wrong. Why I'm going to go down there to be judged to them, only to be killed in the way? For if I be an offender or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. I refuse not to die. Meaning that if I did anything wrong, look, okay, I'm not going to fight the death penalty, right? But if there be none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me into them. I appeal to Caesar. See, that's a whole different thing. Paul is going to be taken by the Gentiles. Yahudah. It's out of their hands. There's nothing that a Pharisee or a Sadducee or a chief priest or chief elder can do now. Because now Festus has to honor Paul as a citizen of Rome. Right? And Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, hast thou appealed unto Caesar? And Festus, unto Caesar thou shalt go. Right? Yeah, you out of my hands. Go to Caesar. Right? And after certain days, King Agrippa and Bernice came unto Caesarea, right? To salute Festus. Right? Agrippa. Right? Now Agrippa, right?
Strong's G67. Agrippas.
Okay. That was the Herodian family, right? the name of the ruling family in Israel at the time of HaMashiach. So let's do this, because I don't want to say that it was the Herods. Let me see. Let's look at this. Who was? So we can get some clarity, right? Herod Agrippa. So he was Agrippa. He was a Herodian, right? Herod Agrippa, also known as Herod II or Agrippa, right, was a king of Judea from AD 41 to AD 44. He was the last ruler with the royal title reigning over Judea, and the father of Herod Agrippa II, the last king of the Herodian dynasty, right? So we know Agrippa was of the royal family of Herod. I thought that was the case, but I like to fact check. All right, so now let's look at this, right? Oops. All right, let's look at this. Okay, let's look at who were the Herodians, right? The Herodians derived their name from the followers of the King Herod. Herodians were a political party that wanted to restore Herod to the throne of Judea by Herod the Great. They were political foes of the Pharisees who wished to destroy Kingdom of David, right? So, let me see. So the whole Herodian, look, let me do this. Let's do this. You know what? I'm not going to go into this right now. I just need to establish with you that it is the Herodians. He was Herod, right? And Herod, the Herodians were a mixture of Arabs and Edom and Esau, right? Actually Arabs, Edom and Esau, right? So Festus sends him to Agrippa, right? So Festus says, you want to appeal to Caesar? Okay. You can go to Caesar, right? Right? So, let me see. Where did I leave off at? Right? Then it says, where's it? Okay, here it is. And after certain days, King Agrippa and Bernice, right, came unto Caesar to salute Festus. Came unto Caesarea, to salute Festus, right? And when they had been there many days, Festus declared Paul's cause unto the king, saying, there is a certain man left here in bonds by Felix. 2 years ago, Felix could have dealt with this, but he did. So he's left here, right? And, I tried to, satisfy the Jews in reference to this, but, he wasn't having it, right? Right? He says, about whom, when I was at Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders and the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him, right? To whom I answered, it is not the manner of a Rome to deliver any man to die. They all lie. So he lying too. He's like, he was like wanted to please the Jews. He was going to ship Paul off to Jerusalem, knowing that the Jews would kill him. But he going to tell Agrippa something different. He says, of whom, when I was at Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him, of whom I answered it, not the manner of Rome to deliver any man to die before that he which is accused, and have the accusers face to face, and have license to answer for him concerning the crime laid against him, right? Therefore, when they were come hither without any delay, on the morrow I sat on the judgment seat and commanded a man to be brought to him, which he did. Against whom, when the accusers stood up, they brought none accusation of such thing as I suppose, right? But had certain questions against him as to their own superstitions, as to one Yahusha HaMashiach, which is dead, of whom Paul affirms is alive, right? And because I doubt of such manners of questions, I asked him whether he would go to Jerusalem and there be judged of these matters, right? And when Paul had appealed to be reserved unto the hearing of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I might send him to Caesar, right? And Agrippa said unto Festus, I would also hear the man myself on tomorrow. Said he, thou shalt hear him. Right. So we're going to stop there. Again, the perils of Paul. Right. Now, because Paul did not listen to the Ruach HaKodesh, he's in prison, bound. For a while, he had some liberty, but, as Felix going out and Festus coming in, no, you got to be locked up, right? So here we have Shaul locked up 2 years without liberty, of which time he could have been preaching the Besorah to the Gentiles as Yahusha commanded him, right? He's still going to get there, right? But it's going to cost him, right? Yahusha said, listen, be of good cheer. My grace is sufficient. Because that's the crust of what he said. Be of good cheer, Paul. Right? I'm still going to use you because you got to testify for me in Rome. Right? Be of good cheer. It pays to obey Yahuwah. It pays. And even though he's in this place, he still has the Ruach HaKodesh. Arguing and disputing, presenting his case, preaching and declaring Yahusha HaMashiach even before Festus. They have no interest whatsoever. None whatsoever in Yahusha HaMashiach. Now it's Agrippa. It's a little different with Agrippa, but the rest of them, they don't care. They don't. So man, if y'all understand, woman, if y'all understand, the lesson to be learned is, throughout all of this, it pays to obey the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, the words you've given me, I've given them. I pray that by that Ruach HaKodesh, they would keep them. That they would understand the necessity of hearing the Ruach HaKodesh. Hey, understand the necessity of receiving the entire witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. Yahuwah being established in Yahusha. Yahuwah, there's no wisdom, there's no understanding, there's no ability to communicate without the Ruach HaKodesh in a manner in which we see in what Paul was able to do. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't rightfully divide the word of truth. You said the Ruach HaKodesh would do that for us. Yahuwah, I pray that they would receive your word, your Basor of truth, your ToRaH, your word. Yahuwah, I pray that they would receive it. That would make them alive and would quicken them. Yahuwah, I pray for their health. I pray for their healing. I pray for their deliverance. I pray for the Basor of truth and those that are in this ministry, that you would strengthen them, and that you would establish your ministry in them, that you would establish your ministry in them. Yahuwah, that you would keep them. I pray earnestly that you would keep them. Yahuwah, that labor, I pray that you would keep them. In the name of Yahusha Mashiach. Yahuwah, let the words of my mouth, meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. You are my strength and my redeemer. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all we have. We're going to pick up tomorrow with Paul and Agrippa. I understand the lesson to be learned. Obey the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Obey the Ruach HaKodesh. Even if you have the Ruach HaKodesh, sometimes you get off into what you think you should do. And the Ruach HaKodesh is telling you, sometimes through people, right, by the Ruach HaKodesh, you need to take heed. With that, I say, man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen, shalom, shalom, shalom. May the rest, the favor, the peace, the joy, the understanding, yes, the Ruach of truth, understanding, be yours in the Ruach HaKodesh. With that, I say, shalom, shalom, shalom.
ToRaH Guardian, speaking the absolute truth. ToRaH Nation.